when the whole world was telling us we were wrong. So the Bitcoin price was it had gotten beaten down tremendously at that point. It was probably somewhere around like $5,000 or $6,000. It had gone to 3,200 at the lows. And then we were climbing our way back, but slowly. And it still seemed like a secret that, it was only us, the crazy guys who stuck around after 2017, who seemed to know what was going on. There's a strong possibility that MSTR gets added to the queues, which means if MSTR gets added to the queues, that 400,000 Bitcoin just got added to the queues. So if you're a passive indexer, you are now taking advantage of Bitcoin's, accretive value into the future. I mean, so now every indexer in America and in the world globally, because the queues are a very popular product, is looking at the SBR, if they're smart, and saying, Trump, get it done, because you're pumping all of our bags in. The way it looks is it's some type of multi-sig with hierarchical key control. And then, there are on top of that, nuclear style procedures for who's allowed to operate the keys, when, how, and, those are all military chain of command things. And then after that, I think we take it a step even further and we time lock the Bitcoin into the future so that greedy politicians can't get their hands on it and sell it, because this is our children, this is their birthright. And I don't want the next administration coming in and saying, fuck this Bitcoin thing, we're going to dump it all at market.
The world is waking up to Bitcoin's power, but American Hodl is already years ahead. He's predicting Bitcoin's future will completely redefine the financial system. Ready to hear why he thinks it could hit $1 million fast? Stick around.
When the whole world was telling us we were wrong. So the Bitcoin price was it had gotten beaten down tremendously at that point. It was probably somewhere around like $5,000 or $6,000. It had gone to 3,200 at the lows. And then we were climbing our way back, but slowly. And it still seemed like a secret that, it was only us, the crazy guys who stuck around after 2017, who seemed to know what was going on. It feels like we're owed 100,000 from 2021 and we didn't get it in 21. So like this time, if we would have had a $100,000 party in 21, right? Like Michael Saylor's throwing a $100,000 party. If we would have done that 4 years ago, it would have felt like a celebration. But now it just feels like the kickoff party to the year's event, because I think we all believe that 25 is going to be extremely bullish, and possibly with the red wave and the Trump administration, 26, 27, 28, 28. Yeah. Do we just going? Yeah. The strategic Bitcoin reserve, the SBR. If it happens, it's going to happen sooner rather than later, which to me signals first year of the Trump presidency. And if it happens during the first year of the Trump presidency, and that coincides with, these very bullish, tailwinds for Bitcoin, like the sky is the limit in terms of price. I mean, we could gap up to $1 million tomorrow because America is stacking Bitcoin and they're stacking 1 million plus Bitcoin. We all said this was going to happen, but like, let's be real. We were just nerds in a high school auditorium somewhere. Yeah, Bitcoin is the fastest horse in the race. That is my framework. I think I took that from him. And, when you think about the monetary inflation that's going on. So, Saylor just gave a talk at Cantor recently where he talked about this. And he was like, the world is actually going to look more or less the same. Equities are going to continue increasing. Gold is going to continue increasing. But Bitcoin is going to increase at a much higher rate. I think it was something like 280x he had in his slide, right? So like, okay, equities are going to do like, 6x, and like gold's going to do like 2x. Bitcoin's going to do 280x. So if you are an investor who's aware of this macro trend of, continued monetary inflation forever, which I think we all are at this point, do you want to ride on the slow horse, gold? You want to take gold to the prom? No. It's Bitcoin. Like, you want the best bang for your buck in terms of, value approach. It's kind of beautiful, right? They're all just collapsing down into meme coins, which is it's a self-admission that we're worthless. Not only that, Alex, but it is true for the market broadly. So MSTR is, looking at NASDAQ inclusion here. It's coming up shortly. I think next week is when they take the snapshot. And there's a strong possibility that MSTR gets added to the queues. Which means if MSTR gets added to the queues, that 400,000 Bitcoin just got added to the queues. So if you're a passive indexer, you are now taking advantage of Bitcoin's, accretive value into the future. I mean, so now every indexer in America and in the world globally, because the queues are a very popular product, is looking at the SBR, if they're smart, and saying, Trump, get it done, because you're pumping all of our bags in. with a Bitcoin strategic Bitcoin reserve, we can do a distributed multisig across America's army bases here on Earth. So it's like, I mean, if you do a 3 of 5, right? We got a key in Fort Knox, we got a key at Fort Bragg. Yeah, we need a 3 of 5 multisig, and then there needs to be a series of conditional procedures around that, which is something you can do with hierarchical key control. And there are technologies that enable that, like Miniscript, not to pump my own bags, but I'm an investor.
Anchor Watch,
called Anchor Watch, which is a new insurance.
We've had Rob Hamilton on this show, so
right.
So
they're doing really interesting things, and so I think the way it looks is it's some type of multi-sig with hierarchical key control, and then there are on top of that nuclear style procedures for who's allowed to operate the keys, when, how, and those are all military chain of command things. And then after that, I think we take it a step even further and we time lock the Bitcoin into the future so that greedy politicians can't get their hands on it and sell it, because this is our children, this is their birthright. And I don't want the next administration coming in and saying, fuck this Bitcoin thing, we're going to dump it all at market. Liz, I'm extremely bullish, and I think that the bull run is, here, and we're about to get through 100K and then 200, 300, wherever it goes, I don't know. But it's like, think about it like we got a bonfire going on in the middle of the forest. We got a little campfire going on, and it's a good campfire. Everything's great. The strategic Bitcoin reserve would be as if, a forestry helicopter came over and dumped kerosene on the entire forest. Okay. Like that is what it is. And it's, dude, the Bitcoin price goes to $1 million overnight. That's just what happens. And $1 million is just the starting point for nation states. Like if you're new here and you're just now getting into Bitcoin, $1 million is where the story begins. We are going to go from $1 million to 20, 30, 40 million. Like Saylor has 13 million. He's been trotting that number out on CNBC. He's being demure when he says that number. That is a small number. That is him being extremely conservative. We're going to $100 million. One of my theses here is that we're going to continue to see liquidity crisis, that the COVID crunch, the V-shaped recovery, that was not an isolated incident. It's not rare. You can tie it directly back to the interventionism we did at the GFC, and you can tie the things that happened at the GFC to interventionism that took place during Greenspan's tenure. So I think we're going forward in time, and we're going to have increasing liquidity crises, and there's this exponential curve there where the liquidity crises are quicker by order of magnitude, or a doubling, probably quicker by a doubling, and then the amount of monetary stimulus needed to soothe them is also double, right? So you have this exponential in two directions where the time between stimulus is getting lower and the amount of stimulus is getting higher.
American Hodl remembers the days when Bitcoin was at rock bottom, trading at just $3,200. Back then, it was a secret only a few crazy hodlers understood. Now, with Bitcoin flirting with $100,000, Hodl sees it as the mere warm-up to a much larger bull run. He's predicting that in just a few years, Bitcoin could skyrocket past $1 million, with potential market forces like the strategic Bitcoin reserve propelling it further. For Hodl, this isn't euphoria. It's just the beginning of a massive shift in wealth, away from fiat and into the Bitcoin economy. With new policies and political tailwinds aligning in favor of Bitcoin, Hodl believes the next couple of years could be explosive. The US government may even hold vast reserves of Bitcoin, changing everything we thought we knew about the financial system.
You can basically tie Bitcoin to Occupy Wall Street. I don't know if you were an Occupy guy, but I was an Occupy guy when I was in college. And I was just like, there's something wrong here. Fuck the 1%, fuck the big banks, whatever. But I'm a right libertarian. That's my sort of political moral compass. And so I think that we were in alignment with the left and the left libertarians at that time. And then there was a fracturing where we split off and went entirely separate directions. And they were seeking to control the institutions in the state, and we were seeking to build a new economy, right? Yeah. And that became Bitcoin. And so I think there's probably like a collision point where we meet up with the socialists and swiftly defeat them. And then we continue on with the digital economy that we've created, which by the way is the most multinational, multicultural, multiracial, multi-religious coalition on the face of the earth. I've never seen anything like it. When you're in Bitcoin, you have friends of all stripes. The news media wants to tell you it's a bunch of bro white guys who look like me and Alex, which is true. We're here too. But hey, bro lives matter. But you have friends from all walks of life, and everybody in America is able and capable of benefiting from this. And the sooner you figure it out, the better. Yeah, so I'll just be straight up here, and I think one of the best uses for your Bitcoin is dynastic wealth. Like, I'm extremely pro dynastic wealth. That's not something you're supposed to say. Warren Buffett wants you to sign a fake giving pledge and then give all the money to your children via charity endowments anyway. But whatever, that's not what I'm about. I am about dynastic wealth, and I think space exploration is another good area that we can spend it on. I think, tech, AI, capital allocation, future capital allocation. I believe in Peter Thiel's great stagnation thesis. I think we've been in a great stagnation. I think Bitcoin is an unlock for that capital in order to use it to get over that. Like I align with the EAC guys, which is, effective accelerationism for anybody who doesn't know. There are a bunch of tech guys who are basically saying like, it's either curtains for the world, for human beings, like we're going to get killed by AI or nanobot swarm, or we're going to make it out the other side, and we're betting we're going to make it out the other side. So it's an optimistic view of the future. And I think Bitcoin is the capital for the capital allocators of that future. And so what I think is that the digital economy, the Bitcoin economy is going to take over the world, as we're already seeing slowly. And when it does, I think we're going to be able to increase global GDP by a couple of percentage points, which is like, it doesn't sound like a lot, but over time is compounded annually. The CAGR on a couple of percentage points increased GDP gets us to space exploration and life extension technologies and AI and nanobot, and just a post-scarcity world is where we're trying to go. That's where we're trying to head. We don't want to be humans trapped here on Earth having resource wars with each other. That's antiquated and seems stupid when we are like at the cusp of maybe becoming a Kardashev type 1 civilization, right? Like maybe that's a couple hundred years in the future, but Bitcoin is a 1,000-year project. So I feel like I have carte blanche to talk crazy shit about space, And I don't think it makes sense to anybody else. So you should have a deflationary currency where you can store the, fruits of your labor and your time and your capital. And you shouldn't have that inflated away from you in what is effectively a stealth tax without representation. I mean, it is literally the thing that we started a revolution in this country for, why we threw tea in the harbors. We were getting taxed without representation. Inflation is taxation without representation, right? So it's abysmal. It's abominable. We hate it. It's antithetical to the American spirit, and it's destroying our society, not just here, but globally. It's worse for everyone else, everywhere else on Earth, right? And so I think that we shouldn't ask, regular people to go out and become investors, because being an investor is actually a very difficult job that takes a lot of due diligence, and it's a full-time profession, right? And if you want to do that in order to earn more capital, that's fine, but it shouldn't be the default in order for you to live a good life. And so, yeah, inflation affects your mind. Inflation, the dollar or Bitcoin, these are measuring tools, right, that you can use by which to figure out correct economic calculation in the market economy. And imagine if you were building a home, and every night, as you were trying to build the home, some goblin, like a little crazy goblin, came through and just like fucking replaced all the tape measures and all the rulers. That is effectively what inflation does. And you would assume that a home built with, constant different measurements, it would be pretty wonky and lopsided and uneven. And that's the American economy. That's the global economy. And it doesn't have to be that way. And I think correct economic calculation is the thing that's going to get us to increase the GDP and then go to the stars. Like, that's the flywheel here.
The reality is that Bitcoin isn't just a hedge, it's a revolution waiting to happen. American Hodl's vision of a Bitcoin-powered future, from dynastic wealth to space exploration, is bold. But with the current financial trajectory, it seems inevitable. If you haven't started stacking yet, the time is now. Don't miss out on this historic financial shift.